All right. I think I'm connected. Let me just double check. Okay, I am. Okay. All right, let's get started. It is 1 p.m. on April 23rd, and we're about to get into office hours. Mexico, I see you. Thanks for waiting. So the first announcement I'm going to make right now is up until today, I've been a little loose with my schedule for the stream. Mainly just because right now I'm also figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and I'm not hard committing necessarily to all of my stream ideas. I'm sort of experimenting. But I realize that, some of you guys are actually waiting for me, which is bad. If I set a time, if I don't hold up that time, that's really bad. It's just very irresponsible of me, and I don't think that's good. So I apologize for anything like that. Okay, from now on, if I do set a time publicly, I don't know, I've been primarily communicating in Discord, whenever there are schedule changes, but whenever I set a time public in YouTube, I will just commit to it. I'm just gonna change my whole approach to that from now on, at least in terms of time. In terms of content, I'm still gonna keep experimenting and trying different things to see what works, but I will keep my time. So sorry for anyone who was ever waiting on me. Mexico was the first one that I sort of discovered, but I'm assuming that means that there were previous people who might have waited on me, but that I never found out about. So I apologize to all of you if you ever find this video. I seriously apologize. So, hey, I don't know if it's Za or Ja, but Janark. I don't know how to pronounce it, but hey, what's up, Z? I'm gonna call you ZZ for now. ZZ, what's up? Feel free to just type it all out, and I'll get back to your comment in just a second after going over some things on the YouTube, through the YouTube comments and also through our Discord discussions. Okay, so here, let me pull up YouTube comments. Okay, I need to change the filter, that's why. Okay, let me just go through all the comments that I haven't responded to. All right, guys. So I'm gonna look at Cat Meow's question first. Hey, hello, why is number 10 A and not D, sir? Have a nice day. Thank you. I have to look back at this. Oh man. Let me pull up the March 2022. So I'm debating whether or not to keep doing questions and answers on office hours for old QASs that I took a while ago, or this one it wasn't a QAS, it was actually a actual thing. But for now, I'm not going to change anything yet. I need to go find the March 2022 PDF so that I don't have to log in just to do it. Did I not download it? Okay, give me a sec. I need to download it, and then ZZ, I will come back to you in just a second after this one. Okay. March 2022 QAS. Where is Apparently, I downloaded it, but I don't know where it went. So I have to use I have to re-download it right now. Okay, so question number 10. Question number 10 is past enjoyments. Oh, dude. I want to know where you saw. So Cat Meow, if you ever watch this video, I really want to know where you saw the word, where you saw enjoyments, because river water has no connection to enjoyment. But let's double. But maybe you saw it. Let me see if I can imagine where you saw it. Okay. I think about him, about how he really may not have stayed in London forever. He might have he had all these hopes as like a very intelligent, very special Indian man, okay, going out to what's it called, to the to London, with all armed with his knowledge of the classics and English literature, you know, and he's just a from Sri Lanka. I forgot where exactly, but he's from Sri Lanka, I think, and he's lived there his whole life. He's a very special character, and he goes there, and he may not have even survived it, you know. He may have just come home defeated, and then he might have restarted his whole life in a place like Nugegoda, which doesn't have the same cultural cachet as London. London returned. Like London sent him back. Were all of those, so this is a tragic ending that we're not even sure about. It's kind of an interesting kind of tragedy because it's a tragedy we don't even know is actually a real tragedy. It's just a possibility of tragedy. But were all those paragraphs and stanzas just the equivalent of a bottle of river water? Now, what is this an allusion to? It's an allusion to the river water over here. I'm actually trying to remember this. It's been a while. Oh, right here. With his books, you know, his water, his family photographs. That's the context of the river water, right? This is his time capsule. It's like what he is bringing from home. That's what he's bringing from home. So then, were all of these memorized literature, was this just more memorabilia from London? That's basically the context there for that question. So you should be going for, you know, he is suggesting that the literature he memorized will be a reminder of London, right? Basically, and not of enjoyments. That will probably, that changes the focus of the passage altogether. So I don't know how to say it's not D unless you specifically tell me why you thought it was D. I could not find any evidence of enjoyments anywhere. I just don't see it. I don't see why he would be dropping his past enjoyments. I don't see that. So all we have is A for that one, okay? Now, if Cat Meow, if you ever do see this video and you can actually explain, I think that'll be really, then I'll be able to actually help you a little bit more on why the connection that you imagine for past enjoyments and the passage may not hold. Okay, so that's Cat Meow. Let's go back to the YouTube chat for a second to see what you guys are coming up with. Oh my God, I didn't even share my screen. Sorry guys. Okay, next time I'll I'll do that better next time, okay? I'll share my screen so that you can see the passage when I talk. Okay, so now I'm back to the YouTube piece of all right, ZZ, I'm gonna start from the top. In my last December exam, I got 1230. Can I get 1500 in 4 months? If you try, first of all, is it possible? Yes. Generally, okay, it's not impossible. You can increase 270 in 4 months, 207 points in 4 months, okay? But there's some good news and some bad news about that condition, okay? The good news is that probably there are a lot of specific skills that you are weak on, and if you just identify them and you just work on them, and ideally you're working on them every single day a little bit, okay? You don't have to work on it like a huge amount, but if you just work on it a little bit every single day, work on your math a little bit every single day, work on your vocabulary every single day, if you work on your reading every single day, just a little bit, right? And you keep it sustained instead of just like bursts of like activity and then stopping and bursts and stopping and then like being really inconsistent. If you can just do a little every day for 4 months, you can improve. The bad news is if you've already been, the bad sort of, the difficulty condition, I'm just gonna call it the difficulty condition. There is a condition under which increasing it by 270 points might become very difficult, okay? This is if you've already been studying for the SAT for like 2 years or something, and you've already seen lots of practice tests, and right now your 1230 is the best score that you got, when, like 2 years ago you were getting like 1030. So you've already increased a lot and you've already learned SAT a lot. Well, it's very likely that in that case, all of the low-hanging fruit of just like learning to take the test better, all the low-hanging fruit are gone. So now you have to do some of the reaching, the more difficult things, like actually improving your reading abilities and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that you have to be very strategic in how you use your time. And you have to know you have to be like it's a huge waste of time if you go through a whole QAS packet and you don't learn anything from it. Okay, so every QAS packet, quality over quantity, every QAS packet, okay, even if you only take 2 passages at a time, every single passage that you take should feel like you're learning a lot. Like, oh my God, you should be intentionally thinking about what you're doing, understanding how the time is going, right? Noticing the errors that you're making, and even when you get a correct answer, right? Even if, let's say, you get C on 7, and C is the correct answer. If your confidence in C on 7 wasn't high, then you have to be like, well, I got it correct, but my confidence wasn't very high. I got lucky, basically, right? Then you have to go analyze that. You have to be like, how can I increase my confidence on this one? And then if it turns out that you have to learn some grammar concepts or you have to learn some vocabulary concepts, then yeah, you probably need to just drill down into those and knock them out of the park. Okay, don't procrastinate. As soon as you know that you have a problem, work on it immediately. Don't push it off, and keep improving day by day by day by day. And in 4 months, I think it's possible. I don't know your particular strengths and weaknesses. I don't know your background, so I can't guarantee what's going to happen with you. But yeah, if you're strategic, you can do it. Rufat, thank you for the word of encouragement there. That's good. Thank you. Sorry, we're getting all right. Nice, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan. We're getting international representation. Mexico, what's up? What's up? All right, and now I'm going back into the YouTube comments. I wonder if there's a way to there is a way, I just don't know how to make it happen, but I want to show my YouTube chat in my stream so that I don't have to keep going back and forth. But anyway, that's just a random side comment. All right, so this is just spam. Let's get rid of the spam. And also this is spam. Okay, and I've been a little slow on the SAT comments, on the YouTube comments these days. I'm gonna zoom in real quick so you can see this a little clearer. I'm sure for some of you guys there's no problem, but if anybody's watching on mobile, this is gonna be very hard to see, so just zooming in. Okay. Yay, what's up? Is there a difference between international and US SATs? I'm worried about these history passages, but I am strong in math. Please reply. Can you also clarify question 22, since D also challenges hypothesis? Okay, so I think that's 3 comments, so I'm gonna break them down, okay? Okay, so the first one is there a difference between international and US SATs? Yes. Yes, there are. As in, international and US SATs, so that could actually be 2 different questions, okay? Let me explain. Okay. That could be 2 questions, all right? The first question is, in May, will the test for the international SAT will the passages for the international SAT and the passages for the US SAT be the same? So the answer to that question is no, okay? In May, the tests that you will see in the US and the tests that someone else will see in Azerbaijan will be different, okay? Because they're being given different versions of the test. Okay, so that's the first question. The second question that you might be meaning is, are international SATs easier or harder than US SATs? Okay, and the answer is no. Okay. the international and US SATs are coming from the same pool of, they come from the same pool of packets, and they rotate. Like basically the journey of an SAT test is that it kind of goes like maybe, I don't actually know the number, but like something like it gets used like twice before it becomes a QAS. So for example, if you guys know, I forgot the actual data for this, but the March 2022 US QAS, okay, the one that I just saw, the one with the Sri Lankan man that goes to London, okay, that test I think was used in October of last year internationally, or maybe December or something like that. And then probably it was used one more time sometime a long time ago in like the US or something, okay? I didn't look up the data for this because this is not something that I'm that interested in, but it gets, they use the same test multiple times, and they use the same test across countries, okay? They use it in the US, then like a year or two later, they use it internationally, then a year or two later, they bring it back to the US, and then they finally release it as a QAS. And then when they release it as a QAS, that's when they stop reusing it. That's the final time they use it. Does that make sense? Now, I don't like that the College Board does this. I kind of wish that the College Board would just create a new test every time. And if it means that they have to reduce the number of administrations, then I think that'd be fairer and better, because that way they can release every test. Okay, they can just always release every test. If they don't reuse it, they can always release it. By the way, this is not only for the SAT. Other test makers release every single test. Okay, the College Board doesn't, for some reason. I can rant about that, but basically, I wish the College Board would just release every single test and not reuse it. Okay, but because we know that they do reuse it. They use it for the US and for the international, and they circle it around a couple times, 2 or 3 times, before finally releasing on the QAS. Then that means that all those tests are basically the same. It's just randomly shuffled. Okay, so I hope that answers your question there. Now, you're worried about history passages, but you are strong at math. Good for you. And I would just say with the history passages, learn a little bit of rhetoric. Okay, learn how speeches are structured. Okay, what are some of the basic introduction passage, like how do most speeches begin? Okay, so learn some of the basic moves. Okay, learn what a concession is. Learn what ethos is and how you normally start a speech by trying to humble yourself normally and trying to like earn the trust of other people. Okay, learn some of the key structures of speeches. The second thing to learn about history passages is also learn US history. If you did not learn US history, if you don't know what happened, what the whole point of the American Revolution was, if you don't know about the Civil War, and if you don't know about the abolitionist movement, which was leading up to the Civil War, but also feminist movements, okay? And like the women's suffragist movements that came out in the 20th century, right? And like if you don't know some of the major amendments to the U.S. Constitution, like the 13th, 14th, 15th, and like I think the 19th was the giving the federal vote to women. I'm actually not the strongest on U.S. history, but basically you need to know the general broad strokes of American history, and yeah, even some more recent, some like UN type, like after World War II, like what is the world order, like why was the UN created, some of the basic sort of history, specifically the history of democracy, okay, and how that modulated itself through issues like slavery and feminism and globalism, right? Through American history. So you have to know some of those basic. You have to know some of the basic background information, because if you don't know it, you will struggle. It will be hard to even read the passage because you don't know what it's talking about. Or even if you try to figure out what it's talking about, for someone who does know what it's talking about, it would take them like 6 minutes to read, but for you, it'll take like 7 minutes to read, and that's going to hurt you a lot. Okay. Try to improve your understanding of U.S. history if you have some time. if this could mean that you should just, maybe it means that you should just use this cram book and just blast through U.S. history, just the very basics of it. Just like take like a month and just like blast through. Now, if you are taking the SAT in a month, then that's probably not a good use of your time. But if you're gonna take the SAT in like August or October, you might want to blast through it and just like understand U.S. history. So those are some tips for history. Now, can I clarify question 22? This is also the March US SAT, so I'll come back to that. Let's get to that in a second, okay? Just double checking the YouTube chat. Yeah, history too is pretty tough. History is pretty tough. I'm going into question 22, and let me just double check. Whoa, what happened? Proves the hypothesis wrong by finding. D also challenged because, okay. Oh, I do want to say one thing about what Andrew Jung, sorry, his question. I want to make a comment on his question. I really like that Andrew Jung specifically, okay, explained why he thought that D was right. D also seems right? Now he used, instead of the word seems right, he also actually specifically uses the word, Andrew uses the words from the question challenges the hypothesis, right? So a lot of kids will ask me questions like this. Actually, this is Andrew too, okay? But when you ask me questions like this, it doesn't mean I can't say anything. I can still say something, but it doesn't mean necessarily that I can predict what your thinking was, okay? I don't know necessarily what your thinking was, and if that's the case, then I won't be able to tell you exactly why your reasoning was wrong. I can only tell you why I can basically only tell you the same thing that I always say everything, like, I don't see the evidence for D. Like, there's no evidence for D, you're wrong. And so I can't really tell you a detailed version of what that is. Now, books do a sort of lazy version of it, okay? And I can do a sort of lazy explanation of it too, okay? And I will, if necessary, but when you do this, it really helps. So, D also challenges the hypothesis because it proves the hypothesis wrong by finding. Now, I don't know what by finding means, so I need to go figure out what this means, but let's figure this out. Okay, D, a hypothesis is offered, findings that challenge are discussed, and the merits are considered. Okay, now I have to go remember what this passage was, so give me a second. Overall structure, let's go. Social systems, reproductive suppression. Okay, right. Now I kind of remember. So we have a description of a particularly interesting species. Then we get into the hypothesis. That's literally the hypothesis right there. And then we go into... Oh no, well that's like the macro hypothesis, okay? That's the macro hypothesis, and this is like 3 micro hypotheses. Okay. So we describe this interesting fish where they're monogamous and only the largest ones, not they are monogamous. I mean, they are monogamous, but what I mean is in groups of this fish, I'm going to call them PX, in groups of PX who live in the coral SH, okay, they are all living together as a big group, but for some weird reason, only the 2 biggest ones actually breed with each other. And there are 3 micro hypotheses. And then we actually go through all 3 of them. Okay, we all go through all 3 of them. And it turns out, okay, It turns out that one or two of these are correct. Let me just double check. A refined has demonstrated that resource limitation does underlie, this is the macro. Okay, right, and there were three, so the actual results are not summarized here. That's interesting. Only the analysis is, only the macro comes out, but basically I remember this. The first micro-hypothesis is false. The second and third micro-hypotheses are true, okay? So one of them is false and two of them are true, but then the macro-hypothesis is still true. The resource limitation does underlie reproductive suppression and female competition. Therefore, this is a important new insight. And we have a different type of animal, so we can actually generalize this. Okay, so that's the overall structure. And now let me go back to 22. 22. D, a hypothesis. Sure, so far so good. Findings that challenge, no. Findings that support the hypothesis are discussed, okay? As well as one finding that challenges, okay? As well as one finding. There's two that supports, one that challenges, but for this hypothesis to be supported, you don't even need all three to be, all three do not need to be true for the hypothesis to be true. Okay, only one needs to be true, and that's sufficient for the whole hypothesis to be true. So the question is resource limitation the cause of reproductive suppression? And there are three types of resource there's three types of resource limitations that they explore. Only one of these is, even if only one of these is true, it's sufficient for the whole hypothesis to be true. So therefore, the findings that challenge the hypothesis are not the things that's discussed, okay? And the merits of the finding are considered. Do we consider the merits of the findings? I mean, I guess in a broad way, yes. Broad way. It's not quite the right, it's not the most exact terminology, but yeah. In a broad way, that's fine. So you would really have to focus on where is the hypothesis challenged and where is it not challenged, and you have to be able to make that connection. And so you probably didn't fully comprehend at least you didn't organize the hypotheses and then the three micro hypotheses and figure out which ones are actually supporting the hypothesis, the macro hypothesis. Right? You need to be able to separate those. And I think you should be able to get that one correct. Yeah. So that was really good because Andrew told me specifically what he was thinking. He was thinking that challenge the hypothesis, then I could just zoom in on the words challenge the hypothesis and explain why that was wrong. So thank you, Andrew, for a very good question. Oh, wrong page. Where am I? All right, here we go. I will update this Discord link. Apparently, this is the old one, huh? Okay, I see. And then why is number 3 not D? This is from the same March 2022. You know what I'm starting to realize? My most popular YouTube video is March 2022. So what I might do is instead of streaming the SAT one day, I might just write up like a March 2022 guide or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to do that because that's a lot of work. but maybe something like that. But my stream for that one was really long, so I actually explained a lot. Well, I'll think about it. Not sure. So why is 3 not D? Why is 3 not D? Let's look at 3. Okay, why is 3 not D? Stalking? Oh, people keep asking about this. Interesting. That's not... We're not criticizing the narrator. Sorry, we're not criticizing Actually, he's not criticizing himself. That's so strange. The narrator's use of stalking has the effect of portraying himself as overly dramatic. He's not criticizing himself. He uses the word stalking to kind of emphasize how he's hanging out with his friends and just sort of like lurking around the ship. So if you thought that he was criticizing himself, I'm kind of curious what your reasoning was, Andrew. So let me know what that was. But he's not criticizing himself. He's just talking about one of the ways that he's having fun with his friends. Okay, so that's for number 3. Let me go back to the comments. His reading score is like a cheat sheet or a tip for reading, right? So my response to this is going to be a bit of a repetition from previous days, but that's okay. I'm just going to do a short version of it. I'll give the full version of it in writing. Here, I'll actually... Okay, so this is basically, I'm not going to be reading this, okay? You guys can read this on your own, but I will be sort of giving the gist of my thoughts based on what I already wrote. So the main thing, guys, if you really want to improve on your reading, you cannot keep improving just by doing like, what do you call it? Like test-taking tricks, like, when you're in doubt, always choose C, stuff like that. Like, that's not going to improve your score sustainably long term, okay? What it might do is it might minimize losses to your score. That's true. But it's not going to increase your score. It's not going to increase your natural ability to understand the passage, to get better at it, And that's the weird thing about reading. With writing and with math, every teacher just assumes that you have to learn it, right? Like, you have to learn grammar. And then, you have to learn how to use the Pythagorean theorem, whatever, right? Like, the writing and math teachers assume that you have to actually learn something, but for some reason, all the reading books that are out there, they don't make the same assumption. They don't say, you have to learn to read, right? What they say is, this is an inference question, so for A and B and C and D, look for these words and then eliminate them. It's like, what the hell? That is not reading, guys. That's not reading. It's like, that is what that is just playing like a sort of probability game, Like, you gotta learn to read. It's the same way that you have to learn grammar and that you have to learn basic geometry and algebra, right? That's like the point. You gotta learn. So my approach is to do the thing that I think is extremely obvious, which is to actually learn to read. My lunch has just come, so I'm just gonna take a quick break, okay? Okay, guys, I'm just gonna wait for my food to come. It's gonna take like another minute or two, but I will finish what I was saying, which is basically you gotta learn to read. Just like you gotta learn grammar, and just like you gotta learn math. There's no way around it if you want to improve your score long term. So Now, if you only have like 2 weeks to prep for the test, then you can't improve your reading that much, just like you can't improve your grammar that much and you can't improve your math that much in 2 weeks. It's the same thing. So in that case, then we can just focus on those little tips and tricks. But those tips and tricks are not mainly my focus. I'll be right back. It's just so stupid and obvious to me. You gotta read. You gotta improve reading. But one of the reasons that reading in particular, like all teachers sort of get lazy around teaching reading is because they don't break it down into like, it's hard to, because most reading teachers are good at reading, right? And they don't really know how they got good at reading except for the fact that they read a lot when they were a kid. That's like almost all reading teachers. I don't think I've met a lot of reading teachers who are good who have never read a lot as a kid, right? But the problem with people who read a lot as a kid is that we, as people who read a lot as a kid, normally we don't know why we're good at reading. We just are, right? So that's why it's really hard to teach reading. But I thought about it a lot. I've analyzed the reading process a lot because it stresses me out when I can't explain something. And a lot of it is actually very connected to writing, so that's going to be a longer lecture. I'm not going to do that right now. But forgetting the writing aspects of this, a lot of reading is just knowing the genre, kind of, right? The conventions of that particular genre. So if I am reading a science passage, like just knowing how it normally is structured, right? How it normally is structured, and then predicting what will happen. So you have to first understand which kinds of passages which passages you're stronger on and which passages you're weaker on, and then we need to start diagnosing why you're weak on those, okay? And then after that, a lot of times kids are actually shooting themselves in their foot by using all these weird tips and tricks without actually focusing on their actual understanding of the passage. So the main thing, the second thing to really work on is when you read the question stem by itself without reading the answer choices, can you predict the answer to the question? Okay. Do you know where you're supposed to look in the passage? And can you actually predict the answer to the question? Okay. If you can do that, then now you have a good map. It means you can sort of navigate the passage pretty well. Okay. And then finally, when you look at the answer choices, you go through and then you have to make strategic decisions based on these words and based on these little tips and tricks. Which ones can I eliminate under time pressure and still feel like it's okay, right? Those are tips and tricks, and that's the stuff that you can also learn in grammar and you can also learn in math, right? But that's the last thing you should be learning, okay? Because that's only for managing your time and minimizing your losses. It's not about actually improving your reading. So if you feel like you're stuck improving your reading score, it's not just you. A lot of people are feeling that way, but there's a reason for it. It's because no one is actually improving your reading. So if you want to improve your reading, I'll show you wrong screen, or not wrong screen, but wrong layout of the screen. If you want to improve your reading, I recommend that you do these 3 diagnoses, okay? You can read the longer version of these diagnoses, like you can read through it, okay? But I strongly recommend that you go through and learn to diagnose what your errors are. So let me, where's the link for this? I'll share the link for this in the chat.
On that part, ask me specifically.
Okay, I'll share the link for this in the chat so you guys can look at it, whoever, like, whenever you guys watch this video, you can just look at the chat. Okay, it's like, depends on how your YouTube screen is laid up, but basically it's down here or it's over here, okay? But basically, look in the chat. I just sent a link. Use that link and then scroll down to the comments and find that comment where I replied to this guy named Lan, okay? And I gave him a very long answer. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna actually turn this into like an actual page of its own. I'll create like a little web page where you can actually read this answer separately. But for now, it's in YouTube, so just use this link. And in the future, I'll have an actual website where I can like link to this for people to find easily. Okay, so those are my responses to the questions that I found on YouTube. Let me just double check anything else that I haven't responded to. So yeah, yeah, you got to work on your reading. You got to work on your reading. All right, and there's nothing else from the chat right now, so I think that's good for today. It's office hours. If you guys have any other questions, you guys have what 15 more seconds to ask a question. Otherwise, I'm gonna go have my lunch and get ready for my afternoon classes. Just cleaning up over here. All right, guys. I again apologize for being a little inconsistent with my time. This week I got burnt the hell out on Thursday, and then on Friday and Saturday, like today's Saturday. So Friday, Saturday I've been sort of recovering. So I'm just learning to manage my condition and sleep better, and I don't know, my environment keeps changing, so it's been a little crazy for me. And also streaming turns out to be extremely tiring. So I'm figuring it all out, but no excuses. If I say publicly that I'm gonna do a stream at 10 a.m., then I will do it, okay? I will do it. Maybe I'll be 5 minutes late, worst case scenario, but I will do it at that time, okay? So in the future, I promise, unless I like lose a leg to some sort of like grenade, okay, I will come here and I'll stream. All right, guys. Besides that, I hope you guys haven't been like waiting on me like too long or too many times. I know I've been inconsistent. I'll do better. I'll do better. Okay, I'll do better. And I'm always thankful, guys, for your questions and your active curiosity. The most important thing, guys, is always to just keep on growing every single day, little by little. Your outcomes will follow, so keep the big picture in mind, okay? Don't get too worried and too tense on just the moment, just the immediate results, okay? Relax, think about the big picture, okay? Be a good person and grow slowly and steadily, and you will do just fine, okay? Good luck out there. I'll see you guys in the next one.